Hi, welcome to episode 74 of Talk About the Passion, Rip It Out. My guest today is Fred Estby. Fred is a founding member of the death metal band Dismember and was nice enough to chat with me for an hour or so about growing up in Stockholm, Sweden. We talk about what it was like getting into metal there in the 80s. We dive deep into things like how key the tape trading network was for spreading underground metal all around the globe. We talk about the time Dismember defended themselves in court after one of their records was deemed obscene. A fascinating story, and Fred, he's really a great storyteller, so that's a really cool story with a happy ending. Doing these conversations with people who sometimes I'm talking to for the first time can be pretty daunting, especially over the phone. But Fred and I hit it off immediately, and I've loved every episode that I've done of this, but I gotta say this is one of my favorites I've done. It was great time talking to him. Dismember, one of the pioneering death metal bands from Sweden. They have a number of great records that they're not up on streaming services right now, but I'm sure you can track them all down. And the history behind them. So it was really cool to talk to Fred. A couple more things, and we'll get this started. I'm on social media on Facebook and Instagram. I keep those up to date, and of course, if you want to contact me, those two places are probably the best. Want to be on an upcoming episode or know someone who should, send me a message there. If you like what you hear here, please like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Well, here we go with episode 74, Rip It Out with Fred Estby. Thanks for listening. All right, well, I'm here on the phone with Fred Estby. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And thanks to our mutual friend Nathaniel for getting us together here. That was cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you're in the New York area?
Yeah, just across the Hudson River in New Jersey.
Yeah.
We moved out of the city in October last year.
Yeah.
It was we were done with that apartment and the landlord, so we thought that, let's look what's beyond the water.
Right. Nice. And where did you grow up, Fred?
I grew up in Stockholm, Sweden, so that's the capital of Sweden, and it's not a huge city by any means. Probably around when I grew up, probably around 1 million people resided in that city back then.
Yeah. And so how young were you when you started getting into music?
Listening to music actively, I was probably around 5 because I was, my dad played a lot of music in the car and so on. So I got into Elvis Presley, and then, started school, met some kids who had like Kiss records, and it was just, it was a good time to be alive.
Yeah,
late 70s, so that's how it started. And after that, it was just like, the harder, the heavier, the faster, the better. Yeah.
I feel like Kiss is. I'm around the same age as you. I'm 50, 51.
Oh yeah, all right.
So Kiss, it seems like a lot of people I talk to, Kiss was sort of a doorway to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, did you see it that way too?
Yeah, definitely. And then
how old were you when you heard Kiss the first time?
I was 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah,
so it's same as me, but I'm 48 now, so
okay. Yeah.
I was a little bit late on the ball, but
yeah. My dad worked in the music business, so he took us to see them early on, and then we saw them when they filmed that movie, the Phantom of the Park. We were at that concert.
Whoa! So now I'm super jealous.
But it's funny because at that time, listening to a band like Kiss, the record covers, I'm sure, was that something that attracted you, like the makeup and that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. I mean, come on, the cover of Alive. It was just like, it was so weird.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was like, are they wearing wigs? Like, how can they have hair like that?
Yeah.
People in Sweden didn't have long hair like that, and most people are kind of, still back then, people were pretty like, fine blonde hair, and if they tried to grow it out, it didn't look like that.
Right,
So
right.
you're like, who are these guys? Are they for real? Like, and then it's kind of a fun period as a kid too, when you realize something that cool. There's so many legends that you create yourself, or you hear from someone else. So you're like, yeah, these guys are like out of this world.
Yeah. Do you remember the first record by them that you did hear, or that you got?
Yeah, I bought Dynasty when it came out.
Okay.
I had just started first grade, and this was like a couple of weeks after I met my friend who showed me all the Kiss records. So I was like, all right. So I saved up some money, my weekly allowance, and it was like $5 or something, as I recall it. And I went down to the only like record store, and I was like, I'm gonna have a Kiss album. My own Kiss album. I can't just borrow my friends or record, to tape from his albums. I need one of myself, and they only had Dynasty, so I was like, well, I'm having this.
Yeah.
Not the best album to start with, but then again, I understood that, like, when my mom was kind of like liking 2 of the songs on the album, I was like, this is not the best Kiss album.
Yeah. The disco era, but still, hey, everyone's got to start somewhere, so no shame in that,
Exactly.
And did you see them early on as a kid?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was too young when they played in Sweden the first time. That was back in 1976, and that was like a legendary show in Stockholm at an amusement park. I was only 4 years old. My parents actually walked past the amusement park, and they had like the tour poster for Kiss, and my dad was joking around, 4 years old. I was kind of squirmish, and he was like, oh, do you want to go see this concert? And I was scared. Deathless. But it was funny that they were like, all right, remember a couple of years ago, you liked this band now? You were scared of them, I was like, damn it, why didn't you let me go? They were like, oh, we're not taking a 4-year-old to a Kiss concert. Yeah. No, but I saw them, unfortunately, the first show I saw that was the Lick It Up tour. So But me and my brother, we went there, and we were, we had the makeup on and everything.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Who were you with the makeup?
Always Ace.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Even though he wasn't even in the band.
Yeah, I know, right? And was that the first concert you ever saw, or did you see stuff before that? Yeah,
it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, and that was in an arena.
Yeah, it was like a hockey arena.
Yeah.
It held like 9,000 to 10,000 people, I think.
Yeah.
It was sold out. So it was great, But after that, I was saw Masters of Rock tour the summer after in an outdoor arena here. It was AC/DC, Van Halen, and Motley Crue. So that was a great show too.
Yeah.
So from there, it just rolled on.
Yeah, you get heavier and heavier. It's funny when you look back at Kiss. You as a kid, you'd look at those album covers like Destroyer, and then all the songs were about girls and that kind of thing. So
yeah, exactly.
And then, so did you start, wanting something sort of heavier, and just something more that you could relate to? Because I know of me as a kid, like girls, was sort of an afterthought once I got really into music,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how it was for us too. But if I started listening to Kiss in '79, and by '83, in between '79 and '83, there were a lot of you heard Black Sabbath, White Snake, Accept, and Motorhead, and that was like, oh, now it's getting faster, it's getting heavier, and then suddenly Metallica came out, and the first album, and I was just like sold. But a lot of people over in Sweden were kind of like, that's too extreme, even if you're into heavy metal, that's too extreme. Those guys are like, to play music like that is not music anymore. It's like those guys are druggies and everything. And I was like, I lost a lot of like friends who liked heavy metal because they were not into Metallica and thought I was an idiot for liking them. Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I saw the first Metallica show in Stockholm too. I was only 12, and they played in, they were doing the Ride Lightning tour.
Oh, wow, nice.
Great show.
Yeah.
Loud as hell, and pretty small venue too, so it was really cool to be able to see that so early on. But
Yeah.
then it took until, not until I'd say Injustice for All that you started to see people with Metallica shirts.
Yeah, yeah. So people there, were they just more purist, and they, Iron Maiden and that kind of thing was sort of the pinnacle of that's as heavy as it got.
Exactly.
I think there's still people like that that
I know.
and it's a cool thing about metal is we have so many different styles of it, but they all fall under the same umbrella,
Yeah,
but
exactly. And I think today, no matter, there are a lot of styles within metal that I cannot listen to.
Yeah.
But that's just how it goes. But I think today, it's a pretty cool thing though that you can. It's a little bit more allowed. I feel like within the scene that you can actually be into different types of metal or heavy music.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of like when we grew up. If I was into Metallica, nobody wanted to hang out with me unless they were into those kind of bands. And then when you heard Slayer and Death and Bathory and bands like that, then you had a certain scene just for that,
right?
Which was cool in a way because you get a pretty good glue in between the people you hang out with. But but it's kind of weird today, like when you tell like people who are younger today that how it was back then, people can't really understand why was it so why was it so
clicky,
compartmentalized.
Yeah, it's weird. And were you listening to other stuff outside of metal too?
Yeah, a little bit later when I met Nicky Anderson, who started Nihilist and Entomb and everything. When we started junior high together, I hadn't seen him before, so it was a different area, which we moved to.
Yeah.
Me and my parents. So when I met him, he was into punk rock. He was not into metal then.
Yeah.
When we were 13. So I was into metal. He was into punk music. So that was kind of interesting that he showed me that side of extreme music, and I showed him the metal part. So, and from there on, we both kind of we hung out a lot, and he was into Ramones.
Yeah.
I hadn't listened to them at all, but then from there also came kind of an interest in. Ramones is not really punk rock. If you compare it to Sex Pistols, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
But they also have a good segue into, power pop music.
Oh yeah,
and,
definitely.
Earlier, like rock. And then you have Kiss, and you can. From there, you can go to the Runaways or Cheap Trick and everything. So we kind of, we took that and showed each other. And then we also had periods when we went back. And because he was also into Kiss when he was my age, So, or we were at the same time, he's as old as me. So, so it's been a lot of going back and forth.
Yeah.
So during the early years of playing death metal and everything, I remember us listening to bands like Descendants and, the softer side of hardcore and punk and so on. So, as we got a little bit older, we realized it's okay to listen to Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. I know. I had a point when because I grew up a metal kid, and then once I discovered punk rock and hardcore, I kind of stopped listening to Iron Maiden and that kind of stuff. And then maybe a year or two later, I was like, what am I doing? That's ridiculous. Once Peace of Mind came out and I heard that, and I'm like, no, I'm going to still listen to Iron Maiden. This is an amazing record. And I, stuck with them from there on out. And, I don't care if someone thinks
exactly.
You get to a point where if it's good music, it's good music,
Yeah. Yeah, but there was kind of a short period there where I felt like, and I was probably the same too, probably if someone said that they were listening to something softer than King Diamond, I would probably call them out and, call them posers and stuff like that. And I got called, so that kind of environment wasn't the best, and I was part of it, but it was a nice thing once you grew out of that kind of behavior.
Yeah, definitely. In Boston, there was a metal band called Executioner, a thrash metal band. This is maybe the mid '80s.
I remember them.
Yeah, and they the singer guitar player for that band, Mark Johnson, started booking shows where he would have hardcore bands and metal bands, and then that's sort of how it happened in Boston, where it was
Okay.
he would, you'd see corrosion of conformity with, whoever, another
Yeah.
punk band, and
Yeah.
then so that he was sort
That's
of a
cool.
big part of that
That's
that
awesome.
world. But yeah, and a lot of those people are still friends, and to this
Yeah.
day, it's crazy that. So when did you start getting into playing music?
I started taking like guitar lessons when I was 11 because
Okay.
my dad was kind of like encouraging me, like, if you're into music, why don't you try to play yourself, but the problem back then in Sweden was like, yeah, the few teachers you could go to and take lessons from, they were like, old
Right. Yeah.
old people who were like, yeah, now we're gonna play, everything has to be sheets, everything has
Right.
to be, you have to sit in a certain way, you can't, like, and we're definitely not playing Smoke on the Water
Yeah. Yeah. Or
or
living
any
after
Kiss
midnight or
riffs.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So no, that's not. First you're gonna play this super, it was just like, okay. And I went for like maybe 1 year, and then I was like, well, this guy, I'm not getting out of it, and I'm not learning anything, and this
Yeah.
is just a burden to train for the next session.
Right. And did you stuck with guitar though for a while?
I did for a
Yeah.
while, and then I met a different teacher who was more like, yeah, let's play some Creedence, let's play some Black Sabbath and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that was cool. But then when I wanted to start my own band in 1988, I think that was, then it was like I was meant to play guitar. That was my whole goal. That I was
Yeah.
gonna play guitar, but we couldn't find a drummer. It was impossible. So
Yeah.
it was just, I was just like, all right, I'll play the drums then,
Yeah.
so we can rehearse.
Right. And so your parents were supportive with as far as music and that kind of thing throughout
Yeah,
as you were a kid?
they were great. They
Yeah.
had, I mean, we moved to a house, and they were like, all right, this basement, this room, and the downstairs, that's yours. Have
Nice.
whatever instruments, have your friends over. Just one rule: you don't play after, I think it was 9 p.m. and you have to be quiet when we eat dinner. That was it.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
That was great.
What kind of stuff did you start playing once you started having friends come over to form bands?
Well, we tried to play some covers, but
Yeah.
we realized pretty fast that, like, we want to play, like thrash death metal, stuff like that, like stuff like Testament and Death, and so we were like, nah, let's make our own songs.
Right.
That was kind of immediate.
Mm-hmm.
We were never in Dismember. We were never the type of jammy people. We were always like, let's write a song and let's rehearse our songs.
Right. Yeah.
The few times we've been like, yeah, let's do a cover or let's jam some, it usually tend to stop pretty quickly because no one's feeling it.
And now, so once you start playing like your own stuff, is death metal and that kind of thing starting to creep into Sweden?
Yeah, exactly. So because of the tape trading and we had one record store in Stockholm that was in the central part in the middle of the city, who it was like these two older guys who were like into the bluesier rock, from the bluesier rock up until extreme metal, and they were kind of funny because they were like, they were not like rigid like most record stores in Sweden when I grew up. It was like they were not a mom and pop store. They were not like two guys who opened a business. It was like a small chain.
Oh, right.
And they had their employees, and it wasn't like, yeah, I'm gonna import whatever you kids are asking for. Most of the stores weren't like that. They were like, import, yeah, we got this on import, but I don't know who ordered it.
Of course.
Which was kind of weird then. That changed a lot. But these two guys, they were like, well, if someone asks for a Creator album from Germany and they don't have distribution in Sweden, well, we'll order it from the record company or their distribution down in Germany.
Right.
And then we're just gonna put all the extra costs on top of it, and the kids will buy it anyway. But we'll order one of each. Like if someone asks for a Sodom album, yeah, we will order one.
Right. Yeah.
which was great, and it took time to get your records, but at least they did that. And they also, since everybody started talking about it, that like, oh, this store you can go and you can actually, tell them to import the albums that you would like to hear, or from certain labels.
Yeah.
Or
that's awesome.
Yeah, so people were like, there's a lot of good traffic of kids here, So like, and someone would ask, can I put my, this note up? We need a drummer for a band. They were like, sure. They didn't mind, and they were also like, oh, you have a fanzine? Sure, you can sell it in the store, or you got a demo? Sure, I'll sell it for you. Would take a commission, but so that was a game changer. Yeah.
And then so then tape trading
after that. And since like that kind of exploded, because you realized also when you had a lot of the the old metal magazines, you saw that like what's this pen pals? Pen pals, we thought that pen pals, that you only have that at school, and we never fulfilled those kind of things. We didn't think globally then. But then you saw like, oh, this is an American magazine, whatever, Metal Maniacs or whatever, they have a whole page of people with their address and everything, and then you were like, all right. So, and then you got a hold of a demo from America, and there was an address in there, and then you realize, we're gonna record a demo, let's put our address in there. So that was pretty cool.
It's crazy too when you think back to nowadays. Imagine like a kid writing a letter to someone asking for like a tape, or that's so foreign now. And that was just
and put like stamps.
Stamps, and then you got to wait 4 weeks or something for the thing to show up. And that was great, And I did a fanzine when I was about 14, and that's how I set up a lot of interviews. I would send someone a letter in the mail, wait 3 weeks, and then they'd say, oh yeah, I'll do it, and then you write them again, and then so
it wasn't either like you could call people. The calling, if you're gonna talk to someone who lived outside of your own city or that little region, that would cost you. And if you're gonna call someone in a different country, that was unheard of. You just didn't do that.
Now, who were some of your favorites around this time? This is around like 88, 89.
Well, Revenant with John McEntee, he was a really big tape trader, and he's a good friend to this day. So he was big on that. I was a little bit. I wasn't the best at the tape trading game because I had like so much energy to just put into writing songs and learning how to play drums and all that. So I had some, but I wasn't really tape trading with Autopsy, but Nick did that. So it was also like, all right, if you're tape trading with Chris Rayford, I'm not gonna do that too, because you will get the demo,
get the
and
tape,
I can and then I can order the tape. But so we were kind of trying to network a little bit bigger too, so that I was friends with someone, and in the beginning, because we tried to put out as many feelers as possible, and we also had our like social gatherings here in Stockholm. We met every Friday and Saturday at the central station in Stockholm.
Oh yeah,
so it was like a free for all meeting space. Like, all right, if you're into extreme metal, you word to mouth, and you would know that that's the place to go. And then when as many people as we could, muster to get on a train, we would try to find somewhere to sit and drink and listen to the demos. So someone brought like a tape machine or something, and then we would sit, around a kitchen table and just listen to different demos. So I had one from Brazil, someone had another one from another place.
Right. That's cool.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And now, so is our Carnage the first band that you have?
So I started Dismember in 88, but by the fall of 89, I felt like I was really restless. I really wanted to record. Like, I wanted to get an album deal. I wanted to record an album and to get on the road. So I met this guy, Michael Amat, who's now in Arch Enemy, and he was in Carcass. He was in Spiritual Beggars. You know, all these bands. Me and him met at a show down in the southern part of Sweden where he lived, and we hit it off. And the drummer in his band, Carnage, couldn't rehearse, or I don't know why he quit the band, but he couldn't really do it. So he thought about me. He was like, I know you have a band, but would you, mind trying? Because I want to record a demo, and then we're going to record an album. And I have a record deal more or less ready. So I was like, all right.
Yeah.
So I ditched David and Robert, and they were also still in school. And they were like, "No, we're gonna finish school." But I quit school. I was like, I don't have time for this. I got a job, and I was just like, well, I'm gonna have a job now, so I have some money. But I will, as soon as I get a chance, I'm gonna record an album and get on the road.
Yeah.
So I was like, I told them like, well, it's not, I can't wait another year for you guys to finish school and then start shopping for an album deal and everything. So I moved, and me and Michael hit it off, and we recorded a demo, and then we aimed for an album, which we recorded a couple of months later, early 1990.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Carnage part. So we recorded the album, then Michael left for England to join Carcass, because they were pretty big at the time too. So I was like, all right, I guess the Carnage days are over. Then we have an album that's not even out yet. Like, what am I gonna do? What are we gonna do? Because some of the Dismember guys were David was in the Carnage and played on the album too. Right. So I was like, what are we gonna do? And then I was just like, should we just reform Dismember? Why not? I mean, let's do it. So me, David, and Matti did that, and so we just restarted Dismember and recorded another demo, and then got the record deal for that. So,
then so the first record deal was with who?
So the Carnage album was with Earache, and then Dismember we got a record deal with Nuclear Blast Records.
Nice. And so once this happens, the things start happening for you, like with, did you start touring yet at this point?
We started playing shows locally, but also, since we had a record deal, they were the labels back then. They knew that you had to tour to sell albums, so they were like, as soon as you can, as soon as we have a tour for you, you're gonna go. And we were like, great. So I think we did a short Denmark tour or something that in the fall of 1990, maybe early 91. But then since when we had the first album in the bag I think that was in March in 91, then they were like, all right, this album's gonna get released before the summer, and we're gonna have you on a tour. We're like, all right.
Yeah. And that's the classic, Like an Ever-Flowing Stream. Which is
exactly.
Great record. And so this same record, I think this is moving forward a little, but is this the record where it was called Obscene or Indecent or something? Or
Indecent and Obscene.
Indecent and Obscene. So can you tell me that story about what happened with that?
Do you mean the court case?
Yeah, the court case.
Yeah, so back then, I mean, Nuclear Blast were growing, but they had in the UK they had Relapse Records and Nuclear Blast. Relapse Records were doing the Nuclear Blast work in the US, right? Okay. In the early 90s. Yeah. So in the UK it was Plastic Head, who were kind of the branch of Nuclear Blast, or the partner of Nuclear Blast in the UK. So they didn't press the albums in the UK. The albums were pressed in Germany. And when they shipped those albums, the English customs found our albums. They were looking for drugs, but they found our albums and saw the album cover. And, we were covered in blood and upside down crosses and everything. They were like, what the hell is this that someone is importing from Germany, in big bulk? What's going on? So they were like, well, let's take a closer look. So they were like reading the lyrics for songs like Skin Her Alive and so on. They were like, this is horrendous. We cannot let this pass. Let's sue them.
Right.
So they sued Plastic Head Distribution. That was the partner of Nickel Blast. They sued also
the government.
Nickel Blast Records.
The government sued?
It was actually not the government. It was it was the customs office who sued, but I guess they are an arm of the government somehow. Yeah, but they were not. It wasn't like the English government that sued us. It was the customs that sued us. Yeah, so they sued the distributor, the record label, and also the band because we were the creator of the art that they didn't want in their country. So they wanted this band. Right. And so we had to go to court. So we had. That's crazy. It was pretty. Comical in a sense. So we had to go to before the court date. We had to, go meet our English lawyer, who was he was a funny guy. First meeting, he was like, "Meet me at this pub." So we took the car out to, over rolling hills and all that, somewhere outside of London City, and we had a pint, introduced ourselves, and he introduced himself, and then he was like, "All right, lads, there's a graveyard or a cemetery just outside the pub. Let's go there and have the meeting." So we took our pints from the pub and had a meeting on a grave. Which was pretty funny. Yeah. I was like, what? This guy's probably he was probably around, 55. Right. And we were like, this old guy he knows what's up here. Like, he's funny. Yeah. So we had to prepare for a couple of days in case we had to be on the stand. We didn't know because they were like, we don't know who they're going to call, but they might call you. We're not really sure what's going to happen here. Right. Because this is the first case in England. I think he said that Cat Stevens, NWA, and then Dismember are the three, by then, three bands or artists that actually have been sued this way. So, but it was kind of a drag, the whole thing. We were like, we had to take out any piercings. We had to, put our hair up, and we had to wear a suit jacket and all that. It's crazy. And I couldn't show any tattoos, even though we didn't have that many back then. But it was just interesting. But we had some good witnesses that were witnessing on behalf of us, who were was this guy from the financial district who was like this. He was a genius. Everybody knew who he was in London at the time because he was such a genius with finances. So he was like a real big shot, apparently, in the financial district there. But he apparently loved extreme metal. So he would go to the same... Yeah, he would go to the same record store every week and buy whatever new extreme metal album that would come in. So he was a fan. So he was like, well, everybody, you probably know who I am. And they were like, yeah, everybody know. And he was like, well, I'm into this, and I must be kind of like one of the most considered normal people in this country, and also very successful. And I've never had any bad press or anything. Everything about me. I've never done a weird thing my whole life, and I'm into this. So come on, And then they play the whole album in its entirety on a speaker system in the courtroom. Including bonus tracks. So it was and you're seeing this these.
It's been so weird, right?
Yeah, three judges with old style, wigs on and robes, everything, and they're sitting and listening to the first Dismember album from start to finish, without moving a muscle, or the facial expressions were completely void.
It's 40 minutes of.
Yeah, exactly. So it was 2 days in court, and then after the last lunch break, I think it was Friday even, came the verdict, and they were like, the whole case is dismissed.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was kind of,
And that must have, you guys, it's your first record, and that just, did that fuel you guys to just want to, kick ass after that. Because it's kind of like a little roadblock for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was. It felt like a good victory. I mean, we got a lot of press from it too, which wasn't bad, and we also got we were kind of a little bit of spokespersons for extreme metal then and there, because a lot of people were kind of still. It's hard to realize that, but back then people were a little bit butthurt by pentagrams and upside down crosses and like gore lyrics or growling.
Yep.
People were a little bit. We even in like Sweden, where the church haven't been strong in that, or religion hasn't been very prominent since the early 1900s. So it was kind of weird in that sense.
Yeah.
But it was also a good thing that you could show that we're not, fucking
serial killers.
Serial killer, yeah, exactly. Or like drug dealers who just lost it,
Yeah. And then the next record you guys did was that Indecent and Obscene record.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what the actual, they sued us for being indecent and obscene. Okay. So that's why we called the album. Yeah.
And that's that cover of that record. Can you talk about that? That's the one with the chest ripped open.
Oh yeah. So we had a friend it was this guy who contacted us, and he was like he had been doing special effects education in the US, and he was attending this art school with a couple of other people, and they were really interested in coming up with concepts for us as a band.
Yeah.
So we were like, yeah, let's have a chat, and he had this really crazy ideas about like, I'm seeing your head chopped off, hair tied into a knot, almost like in a pentagram, and I can accomplish this. We were like, whoa, really? You can how can you do that? I mean, there were no Photoshop back then. That was like, he was like, how are you gonna do it? No, I'm gonna do it old school, like horror movie.
Yeah.
I was like, but then you better be pretty good then if you're gonna try to do this with just special effects and take a photo of it. And he was like, yep, I know exactly how to do it, and he did it. Nice. So we were like, yeah, I mean, there's very little editing on the photo of that the pieces cover with the heads.
Yeah.
So he had this idea too about the torso for Indecent and Obscene, and he was like, well, it would be cool to have a torso ripped open, and then because we had a guy who they knew who came up with those belt buckles, so that Dismember logo in the chest piece is actually a belt buckle.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, so he was like, that would be cool if you looks like you ripped open a chest and you have your logo in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, go for it. And he did a really great job on that too.
Nice. That's awesome. And at this point, the band's kind of firing on all gears now. You guys start touring a lot and stuff?
Yep, absolutely. It was like just touring, recording when you didn't tour.
Yeah. When did you come to the States the first time?
Summer of 1993. I think like around May or something we landed in Miami. And then we did like a whole North America tour.
Yeah.
We were out for like 10 weeks.
Oh, wow. Was that just you guys, or did you tour with someone?
So it was Vader were the opening act, and then it was us, and then Dayside.
Oh, nice.
But the second part of the tour, the last 4 or 5 weeks, Dayside went home, and we continued for 5 more weeks with Suffocation as a co-headliner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was a good time. So it was so different over here compared to Europe.
Yeah, I was going to say, so. Did you find differences between the metal bands here and the metal bands, in Europe and in Sweden?
Yeah, people were more laid back here.
Yeah.
In Europe, people were still a little bit like, not on edge, but more like, I think it's the weed too. People, people don't, I mean, except for Amsterdam and so on. Back then, not a lot of people were smoking weed, so people were drinking and stuff. And it's kind of that Nordic European behavior that usually people get pretty hyped up when they drink, So it was a different story here. People didn't drink as much, but they were smoking weed, So
different vibe.
Yeah, different vibe, but also a lot of it was different. I mean, beautiful country, and you got to see a lot. You got to meet a lot of different people.
Yeah.
During those 10 weeks, so that was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
that I really felt like, oh, this is. I had been over once before, but that when you really saw the whole country and everything, and met so many nice and cool people, it was a game changer.
Definitely. And then you notice, like, at the end of the day, metalheads all over the world were all kind of the same. Like, when you can sit here and shoot the shit about
exactly
an Iron Maiden song for 3 hours,
Yep.
And, I still do it to this. My girlfriend makes fun of me because I'll be in a store and I'll see, a guy with a Celtic Frost shirt. I'm like, I gotta go say something to that guy, like, cool shirt. And she's like, why do you have to do that every time? I'm like, I don't know. He just needs to know, and he'll,
Yeah, but isn't that like the old instinct too? Like when you were a kid, like if you saw someone with a shirt, like that was so rare.
Yeah.
Like,
you'd be like,
and I mean,
I
still feel that it's a little bit rare. It's not often that I see a guy in a Motorhead shirt walking down the street, right?
Yeah.
It's like I have a feeling that sometimes I have to be like, how you doing?
Yeah, where I live, I'm kind of in the sticks a little, and you don't really see that here. So if I do see someone in,
But that's another thing, like that I noticed. I remember touring over here that people are way more open to speak to people they don't know. In Sweden, if you do that in Sweden, you just walk up to someone in Sweden, unless it's very obvious that you're going to ask about a shirt because you have the same shirt on or something.
Right.
If it's not that, you're looked upon like you're a fucking freak.
Yeah.
And people avoid you and they don't want to talk to you because either you're drunk, you're high, or you're a metal case.
Yeah, it's the weirdo. Huh.
Yeah.
So
crazy. That was it, and I still love that.
Definitely.
Living over here, I have myself changed for the better just because it is more fun. Life's supposed to be fun, not
be a
being
little
like
more laid back.
You don't have to hang out. That's another thing that I was like, first couple of times over here, I felt like people are not really genuine. If you say what's up and I start talking about my day, then they don't want to hear it because that's not how it was intended. And I couldn't read it right. It's not like how you doing. That's a different story. If you actually look someone in the eye, it's like those social codes. I didn't get it at first. But the good thing is also that you don't always have to talk about everything because if you start in Sweden, if you start engaging with someone, then both parts are going to feel awkward if you just stop talking. So you have to it's almost like you force yourself to continue talking a little bit so that you don't act like a shallow weirdo.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
So that's a bit of a culture clash.
It is, yeah. I've never thought of that. And then that kind of almost goes back to when we were talking about how people being like real strict about their metal. Like, if something's heavier than Maiden, they're, take it very serious and that's childish or whatever. Or these guys, that guy's growling. He can't sing like Rob Halford.
Can't hear what they're saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But, So when did you start getting into studio work and sound and that kind of thing?
Well, from early on, I mean, the recordings we did in the early days were so poor, and you couldn't trust people who were recording for you back then because they didn't understand.
Yeah,
what is this? It's just noise. Like, I don't want to work with this, but I have to because I'm working in the studio and they're giving me money, but I hate it. It was that kind of attitude all the time. So I was like, it's not sounding right. And then when we finally hit the Sunlight Studio with a guy who knew what he was talking about, he didn't, tell us that it sucked. He understood where we wanted to go. He had good references. He worked with very small means. He didn't have like super expensive mics or anything. He was not a snob, but he was a music nerd, a sound nerd. So, even though he was older than us, it was like, oh, we're on the same wavelength. This guy. And that's when I really hit it off with him because I would sit next to him and see what he was doing.
Watch all this stuff and absorb.
Exactly. Yeah. And he liked the fact that I was so interested. So he wanted to teach. So, after a couple of years recording with him, I was like, can I work here? Can I do apprenticeship? And he was like, sure.
Yeah.
So that must have been around 1994, maybe.
Oh, okay. So that early, yeah.
Yeah.
And you did production on the Dismember records for...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's funny too, like thinking of these like studio people you go into, it's almost like the guitar teachers early on that, don't...
Yep, exactly.
Want anything to do with metal. They're just kind of teaching you happy
Yeah,
birthday and shit like that. So, and then
yeah,
you go
stuff like that. And they were like, yeah, but I don't have to care how I mic this, or if, because these kids are going to suck anyway, so I don't have to put any effort in myself. And they would also say stuff like, well, you know what, you're going to, like, in a couple of years, you'll grow up, and then you grow out of this, and then you'll understand that Beatles is the best album or best band ever,
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I understand that they are, but that has nothing to do with what we were doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're doing our own thing.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, like your own thing, death metal in Sweden, a lot of time, they talk about Swedish death metal.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say is like elements of that would, separate that from what, just not regular death metal, but like a band like Obituary or something?
I think that there's a little bit more, at least the Stockholm death metal scene in the early days, there's a little bit more punk rock to it.
Yeah.
You have like some, you have elements from Discharge and Agnostic Front.
Yeah.
Even I know for a fact because that's how I listened to it. I was crossing and like, I could tell if like, oh, this Discharge riff, that's almost a death metal riff. When you realize that, and you're like, and this is groovy. This is like, this has a different kind of groove to it than if you do the 4/4, like Judas Priest would have done it. You know.
Yeah.
So you can mix those elements, and I think that's probably the thing that stands out the most.
Yeah.
If you compare like American bands and Swedish bands back then.
Yeah. Okay. And so, how many records did you do with Dismember?
6 or 7, I think. Yeah.
And then you took a break at one point.
Yeah, I did. I had young kids at home. We were touring a lot, and it was also like, this was back in 2007. It was pretty rough to like try to live off of the music back then, because people were like, yeah, come and play here, and then you go play there, and there's not a lot of people showing up unless it's a Friday or Saturday. So that's and still we kept going. So no money really saved, and the problem to put food on the table for someone that has a family, that it got too much in the end.
And were you living in the States at that point?
No. I lived in Stockholm, Sweden. No, I moved here when my kids were like, they were old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you did a sort of like, I hate the term super group, but you did that Necronaut record that had a bunch of different guests. You had Chris from Autopsy, and how was that to put that together?
Oh yeah. Oh, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you know about it, because that was like not a lot of people know.
Yeah. Well, I was doing research on, like, just to make sure, and I saw that record, and I never knew about it when it came out or anything, but I've gone and listened to it, and it's pretty awesome.
Oh, thanks. Well, like when I quit, or when I stopped playing in Dismember and they wanted to keep going and everything, I had some music that was meant for the next Dismember album.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you guys want this or not? Or like, do you want to, like, or shall I just use it myself for something if I need to? Or do you want these, like, am I destroying the songs if they were like, nah, but you know what? It's just going to be so messy when you do, like, because we always had like a very rigid system for how the music was written and who gets the right
credits
cut and everything.
Stuff. Okay.
Yeah, because most bands are like, well, let's just split everything, but we were all on the same page when it came to that, because it's like if I write something and you don't, why should you get money for the time I spent writing this?
Right,
and
right.
we all agree that it should be on the album. So we solved that by being very rigid with that system. So they're like, nah, it's just going to be annoying in that sense or whatever. And we, it's fine. You're not ruining anything if you take it back. So all right. So I took my stuff except for like one riff, I think, and I was like, I have so much more material, but this is not Dismember, maybe this is not, and maybe that's where we also like a little bit felt that this is not working for the band. And I was like, well, I don't think that works either. We were not really on the same page then and there. So I was like, well, let's see what I can do with this. So I did like one song, and then I had some more stuff, and this is going good. This is not really death metal. It's here now. I can do anything. I can do a thrash song if I want to. I can do a doom song if I want to. And let's just write some music. And then when I had like 4 or 5 songs, I was like, I mean, who's gonna sing on this, and what am I gonna do? And then I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna play everything myself. I'm gonna, that's the only way to go. I don't want to. But then I was like, but I'm gonna need someone who plays lead guitar here and there, and then I'm gonna have to have different vocalists because the music is pretty different from song to song.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's not gonna cut it with just one person. So maybe I can and then I don't have to find a band. I don't have to find a singer just for this project.
Yeah.
That probably will. And I wasn't gonna go do a lot of shows anyway because I was gonna be home with my kids.
Right. Yeah.
But I needed the outlet for the creativity. So I was like, well, let's see if I can, I know a lot of people in the metal scene, so I could probably, so I started calling people like who's interested, and I got pretty early on, I got a really good response. So I was like, all right. I mean, even like Chris Rayford, he was like, of course, no problem.
Nice.
Like, what? Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that hard actually.
Yeah, and that must have been relaxing to not have to have everything like this has to be, in the confines of what you were doing with Dismember, like this is a Dismember song. So with this, you had the freedom to just, like you said, do a doom song or a thrash metal song or what have you.
Exactly. I could do whatever I wanted to. I could, I didn't have to ask anyone else.
Yeah.
It was freedom in that sense. And it was also kind of like, I also could do it whenever I wanted. I mean, that took a long time because I was working daytime, for a furniture company. So I had to go out and record on the weekends.
Yeah.
And up to, so it was like, it took like a year or more, maybe 18 months to finish it. And I recorded everything myself, played all the instruments and everything, and mixed it and so on. So it was like a slow process. And then, getting the people to sing and all that was also a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Easier today, but it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot from it.
Yeah, and you have your own studio where you would do this, or were you going places and recording?
No, I did because me and Nicky Anderson again, he because I told him about my plans when I quit Dismember, and he was like, well, I've been thinking about putting the helicopters to rest. I was like, really? Like, okay, I thought you were doing. He was like, nah, I'm getting tired of it. I want to take a break from touring and everything. I would like to start a recording studio.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And he had a house out on the countryside outside of Stockholm, like an hour outside of Stockholm.
Yeah.
So he was like, maybe we can do this together somehow, and I got money put away from the last helicopters tour. And I was like, well, all right, let's see what we can do. And so we decided, so he had like a little annex or an outhouse that was like separated from the main building where he lived. So we built kind of a little recording studio, 2 rooms out there, and then we made a mixing studio in my apartment in the city.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I couldn't record drums or anything, but I could record guitar and stuff that wasn't too loud.
Right.
So we had like a recording studio at his place and then a mixing studio at my place. So I could, it was pretty convenient. So I went out to him recorded the drums there, and then I took the files with me and kept recording at home.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, you do this band, the Dagger.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And that record, I've listened to it a few times now, and like if you told me that was recorded in 1977 or something, I would believe you. It's that. So how did that band come about? It's like an early, almost sounds like Uriah Heep and early Maiden and Saxon and that kind of thing. It's cool.
Yeah, that was the whole plan, because when I quit Dismember, they made one more album, and then they toured their asses off for like 18 months, straight. And then they took a break, and some of the guys in the band at the time were having kids. So they were like, well, we should probably, put this on ice for a while.
Yeah.
So David, the guitar player, me and him started Dismember, so we've always kind of played together, except for that 1.5 years that I was not in the band anymore.
Right.
So when I told him about the Necronaut project, he was like, "Whoa, that's cool. So you're gonna not just do straight up death metal?" I was like, "No, I'm gonna make it's gonna be heavy metal. It's gonna be." And I played some stuff for him, and he was like, "Whoa, that's great. I have some riffs that were too light for Dismember, and everything." So he played that to me, and then we're like, "Well, why don't we do a straight up early like hard rock heavy metal band?"
Yeah.
We tried to make it sound like the shit that we always listen to, like Rainbow, Iron Maiden, Saxon, and make it really try to go there for once. Because, like I said, we were never a jammy band.
Right.
We were never really experimental like that or anything.
Yeah.
So why don't we try to play and see, like how we have to change ourselves as musicians just to play something that it's going to sound way older than what we've done before, So it was kind of a experiment, and also a kind of a way to go back to our roots and just start analyzing the albums, production wise, playing wise. So, because even if you're like, I know every single drum fill on, let's say, I don't know, Sad Wings of Destiny.
Yeah.
You still, if you analyze it and you start, peeling off the layers, then you're like, oh, how did they record that? It sounds really special. That, and me being like a recording engineer and music producer too, I was like, I really want to know, try to find the spirit of Martin Birch, and see what would he have done? What did he do back in 72? Like with like Deep Purple. Like how did he really do it? And then, a lot of music biographies came out too, and like talking about how they mic drum kits and like what kind of mics they used and what kind of amps and everything. So we nerded out completely. And
that's my favorite part of music bios, when they get into the meat of like songwriting and that kind of thing. I don't care about their divorces and drugs and all that stuff,
Exactly. I want to know what the hell kind of pick did he use? Because it's a different kind of strumming on that song. I know. That's what we did. So we really went to the bottom of it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, you definitely captured it. And
thanks.
That's a cool
Appreciate
record.
that.
Yeah. And now, so presently, Dismember exists as much as a band can exist in 2021. But were you guys doing anything in the last couple of years?
Yeah. So we did before the pandemic hit. We did 3 live shows together again, like reunited and the original lineup and everything. So that was fun. 2 shows in Stockholm and 1 in Switzerland.
Right.
So we had, last year should have been a lot of shows, but that didn't happen. So we'll see. Maybe this fall or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And now you're just you're doing studio work and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
At this point, yeah. Cool. Well, hopefully, we can all get back to normal, and you guys can. Have you thought of recording again with Dismember? You think?
We've talked about it now that especially when everything turned out like this, we started talking about it a little bit more. Since I mean, if we can't play live for a while, maybe we should record something new.
Yeah,
it would be fun. Everybody seemed to be on board with it, so that's a good thing. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
And them too. Like, if not everybody's interested in it, well, then we're not going to do it.
Yeah. And you guys have you always got along? Was there?
Yeah.
Yeah. It seemed like you have a pretty strong friendship with those guys, so that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's like certain periods of time after I quit the band, I didn't really, we didn't. Not all of us, but me and David, we've always been tight like that.
Yeah, cool. Well, I hope we can see you guys play again soon. And,
that would be.
Yeah, definitely.
Would be fun.
And
it'd be a lot of.
Yeah. And thanks for taking the time out to talk to me.
Of course.
This was really cool.
Yeah, really. I hope we can hang out.
Yeah, I know, definitely.
Not too far future.
Seriously.
But do you live in Boston?
I live in Boston. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll have to come. I know. Were you working at St. Vitus with?
Yeah,
I mean,
I did my first show there because I used to play it. I used to work in another venue where he worked too, in Brooklyn, not far from Vitus. But I did I think one or two, or 2 or 3 shows, and then everything shut down. So but I'll definitely hit you up if I'm going up north.
Yeah, definitely, man.
I haven't been in a while.
Yeah, and same here if I'm heading down that way.
Yeah, let me know. It would be cool to hang out.
Yeah, definitely. All right, sir. Well, you have a good night, Fred, and I will
too.
Talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.